Hello, today I'm here with Kevin Walsh, who is a teaching professor in our department and the director of our professional master's program. Kevin, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for doing this.
Well, it's going to be fun, I hope. Why don't we start with, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, who you are, and how you ended up where you are today.
Sure, I was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I am actually a product of 20 consecutive years of Catholic education, so from the beginning of kindergarten through to the completion of my master's degree, which I did here at the University of Notre Dame. I have a beautiful wife named Megan and two beautiful daughters named Maeve and Grace, and I have lived in a few different places in my life, Ohio, New Zealand, and now Indiana, and I'm very lucky to be here at this university with my family.
That's fantastic. So how about your area of expertise? What's the area that you work in, both in terms of your professional career outside of being a professor, right, but then also on the academic side of things?
Sure. I'm a licensed structural engineer, and I take great pride in trying to be one of the representatives between our department and industry, and I still work part-time in industry to keep my network up, which benefits my role teaching our senior design capstone and also keeps me a bit fresh on the trends in the structural engineering industry. I've worked in a wide range of structures in my career and have been very lucky, although I've tended toward the building and industrial structure side as opposed to the bridge and heavy civil side in my teaching, consulting, and in my research.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, as somebody who only lasted a year in professional industry, I have great admiration for your persistence. The academic path was always going to be mine. So let's just take a second and think about, you got here, you have a great experience, you did a master's here, you went to New Zealand to do your PhD, you returned and did all these kind of things. Imagine we could invent a time machine and we could go back and talk to 22-year-old Kevin, fresh out of undergraduate, you're ready to go. What life advice would you give Kevin, or the same advice that you give one of our undergraduates who's at that stage of life?
Well, I have a lot of advice that might not be appropriate to share here, but one thing that I do think is appropriate and is advice that I give to a lot of younger people I'm mentoring, early career, or certainly students, in fact I have it built into one of my lectures in Capstone, is you have to have some level of liking what you're doing to pursue it. But I think a lot of students do have a misappropriated view of passion. And so for me, I liked what I was doing, but most importantly, I was good at it, and I continued through my career to find my niche. And as you are good at something and you put in the hard effort to continue to get even better at it, and you start mentoring other people in that field, that's when you become passionate. And you end up on committees and you're steering industry and finding new advancements in technology. That's really exciting. And it's a good mindset to have as well, because what we do is very difficult working in the built environment industry. I don't know that there are many industries that are that pose as wide a range of challenges as ours does, in terms of technical challenges, people challenges, economic challenges, bureaucratic and administrative challenges. And so it's really important to find what you're good at, build on that, and the great news about our industry is there's a ton of opportunity in it right now.
Well, and what's interesting to me is, we talk so much about how people spend so much time on electronics nowadays that's become part of life. But I mean, hearing just what you said, 99% of our life is around the built environment and all these things. The buildings that we're in, the infrastructure that we use to get around. So it really is. You're influencing and touching people's lives that they take for granted in every possible way.
It is, and I found myself pitching our industry to a lot of students who aren't in it. Maybe they're studying chemistry or biology at the undergraduate level. And I always make this point, and I grab a prop, which is always very handy for us. This is such a cool piece of technology. It's awesome. The engineering that went into it is incredible, and it certainly had an effect on our lives. And when we have more time, we can evaluate the pros and cons. But this is an iPhone 13. It's mid-2023 right now. This will be completely obsolete in a few years. Yeah. When you are involved in the built environment, you are designing and constructing things that are going to be there for generations. And that's what gets me really, really excited. How do we design something that's going to be future-proofed and used by people who haven't even been born yet? I guess there's a little ego thing there that I want to build things that I know are going to be around for a while, but it's what makes me passionate about what I do now.
Oh, I really, really like that. And I also like what you said about mentoring. To me, it's the reason that I love the job that I have, right, is the ability to mentor and guide and shape people's lives. And so you talking about that in the context of industry is inspiring. So as someone who did his master's degree here, but has also been a faculty member with us for some time now, what would you say your favorite thing about this department is?
It is the people, which I realize it seems like a totally cliche answer, but I mean it sincerely. It is tough to find people you really like working with. In my case, both faculty and students in any job or any industry. And higher education is a bit notorious for being a particularly tough nut to crack in that regard. And I really like the people here. And for the reasons that I just stated before about our industry, what we do is not easy, it's challenging. Nobody gets into this field for the fame or the fortune. They get into it because we like shaping the built environment for the better of ourselves, our families, our communities, and the people around us. And I think that lends itself to a group of people who are more collaborative and easier to get along with than you might find a lot of other places.
It's true that several people have given that answer, and all of them have stated that it is a cliche. But I think it resonates. I think it's true. You know, I think it's a reason why so many of us are still here, despite having had other offers and other opportunities. And you know, we've also had some other good answers. But it's nice to hear, you know, that, and it's certainly how I feel about this department. So let's shift a little bit and you know, learn about you personally. You mentioned, you know, you have a young family and you have many things going on. What do you do to relax?
Yeah, so a perfect weekend day for me are taking my girls out on a nice sunny but somewhat cool afternoon walk, or to the zoo. We have an amazingly great zoo here, the Potawatomi Zoo, and I've learned how critical that is when you have young children. And then my oldest daughter is getting at the age where she's starting to do soccer practice, and they do swim lessons, and those are honestly my favorite days. If I do ever get 30 minutes to myself, which is pretty rare at this point in my life, I love to go for a jog. 30-minute jog has about a 24 to 48-hour impact on my psyche in a very positive way.
Absolutely, I can definitely relate to that. And have you guys fed the giraffes at the zoo?
We have, which was incredible.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've seen that kind of squeal of delight ever before in young children.
No, watching them run is one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen. And then, you know, just piece of advice, if your daughter's getting into soccer, take the opportunity to coach. I've been doing it for 10 years for both my kids, and it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. So that's wonderful. How about music? Do you listen to much music? Do you have a particular genre you like? Any artists in particular?
You know, a lot of people our age, I'll just kind of group us together, have found that they probably haven't done a lot to update their albums since they were in college or graduate school. So if I do happen to be listening to music because I'm doing something somewhat mundane late at night, it's stuff that hasn't been updated in about 15 years.
That's okay. What is it?
Yeah, but I always had eclectic taste. You know, I'm an old millennial, and I grew up in the punk rock era, so I still listen to a lot of music in that realm, in sort of what was called alternative rock, although I don't know if you could still call it that 15, 20 years later. But I also grew up, my mother just loved the Beatles, and so pretty much any Beatles album I can listen to and enjoy the heck out of.
That was one of the few non-classical musics that was played in my house. My father loved classical music, but he had all the Beatles too, so again, something I can definitely resonate with. And then, you know, and when I ask this question, you know, given that you're a structural engineer, feel free to mention an architect, but is there any artist or architect or anything like that that inspires you and brings out that more artistic side in you?
Yes, and I'm very focused on giving positive answers here, but I did think about who my favorite artist was in advance of this interview, and I couldn't come up with one, so my official answer is going to be anybody but Jackson Pollock.
Anybody but Jackson. Okay. Well,
I need a little bit of order to get to my heart. Yeah.
As a structural engineer, that makes a lot of sense to me.
But in terms of architects, and this is a very controversial answer to give around here amongst some of the graduate students, but I love Jose Calatrava because he's not afraid to show the structure, and it hasn't been for a long time. It's become trendier in the past 10 years to show structure, but he was doing that way before everybody else. So,
that's cool.
Thanks to Jose Calatrava.
Oh, fantastic! This is great insight. So let's just one other question. Sports. Do you have any particular sports you're passionate about? Favorite sports teams?
Yeah, you know, I've always enjoyed watching sports as a spectator. In terms of personal sports, I love cross country and long distance running, but that's not a great spectating sport. I'll be the first one to admit. So when it comes to spectating sports, I love college football and basketball. And the reason I actually like college more than the professional level is because of the community passion that builds up for these things. The pageantry associated with our college sports in America has its problems, certainly, but it's very unique, and it is so fun to get to see the community come together together on a Friday afternoon right out here. So definitely follow the Notre Dame Fighting Irish football team and the men's and women's basketball team here. And then my undergraduate alma mater, University of Dayton, also has a big-time basketball program who I keep up
Yeah,
with.
I've never seen anything like the passion for college sports in any other country in the world. It's truly amazing, and I mean, it also goes a long way to explain why the U.S. is able to produce so many Olympians and so many
Yes.
fantastic athletes.
It is so fun having international students come here and getting to explain to them the culture of hanging out in a parking lot for
Yeah.
several hours and just meeting new people and walking up and down and shaking hands with, Notre Dame alum from the class of 1964, and it's extremely cool here.
So I've always thought the tailgate was the greatest invention of all time when it comes to sports because, in so many other countries that I've lived in, you go to the sporting event, your team loses, and people leave annoyed. Here you've had a wonderful day, so irrespective of the outcome, you go home, maybe a little bit upset that your team lost, but you still had a fantastic day.
It's a social event with a sport, and we can say some things about how fun tailgating is tongue in cheek, but honestly, it's become the de facto family reunion for the Walsh side of the family as well as my mother's side of the family the past several years. Where for whatever reason, it's just easier to get people to drive and have an event for one day that's quite defined rather than sort of go to a beach somewhere in the part of the country where nobody lives for an entire week. And so it's meant a lot to my family. Some of my best family and friend memories are from tailgating for Notre Dame football games.
Yeah, no, my parents who visited from Ireland have absolutely loved the times that they've been. Both my parents know nothing about football, and they still talk about the game that I took them to. So, and my dad loves every time he sees a Fighting Irish poster, he's like, "Let's take a picture next to it." So it works out very well. Anyway, thanks for your time, Kevin. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I'm just grateful for you doing this. I think this is a wonderful way to share the stories that we don't always get an opportunity to do, and I'm very glad to be here. Thank you, Yogo.
Thank you for your time, Kevin. Take care.